The shadows in our lives are gathering ever closer around us. But united together, we can face the darkness. Nos ventus cortis, we venture forth. The time has come to go, hunting the shadows. Hello, good evening, folks. This is your humble host, Dennis Carroll, and this is another episode of Hunting the Shadows, episode 42. Tonight we're going to be talking about a very dark subject, and that is satanic cults and vampire cults. They're really about one and the same, basically. And we're going to have my good friend and our guest tonight, Red Pill Preacher, on to talk about that. What this man doesn't know about cults is not worth discussing, okay? He knows a lot, and this is, like I say, going to be a very dark subject, so prepare yourselves spiritually and be ready for that. I want to welcome everyone in the chat room. Hello, Crystal, John Fortman, Millie DePreta, Ida, the girl in her thong, Will Kilroy, and appreciate you all being here tonight. Definitely, this is going to be a very interesting episode of Hunting the Shadows tonight. Got a few things to talk about first. Gonna knock them out of the way right quick. Friday night, continuing Vampire Week on Hunting the Shadows. Friday night, Paranormal Point of View at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Vampire Encounters, Uncovering the Undead. Okay, we're going to be talking about, I've got some really freaky stories to tell you guys, okay? And you're going to really enjoy this, I think. And that's Friday night now on Paranormal Point of View. And we'll be talking Vampire Encounters, okay? I'm going to let everyone know that we're trying to get the stuff in the mail to you. It got delayed a couple of times. I was waiting on some mailers and some other stuff, but I'm working on it right now, and definitely hope to get all of this in the mail to you by this weekend. Okay, so be watching your mail, and some of you got some special stuff coming, so be watching for that. And I want to say hello, give a shout out to some of my newer members that have joined us. And the new members that have, and you can, if you hit the button, you can join and become an actual official shadow hunter, okay? Certified. I certified you, definitely. And if you want to join, you certainly can do that. We've got two levels, level 1 and 2, depending on which one you might be comfortable with. But if you do join, you do get special stuff, and you will also be in the future, very soon, be getting some special videos. Okay, and so you be watching for that. Hello, Annie Rhythm, David Lester. Good to have you here, folks. Let's have a little word of prayer before we begin, because this is going to be a very dark subject. Okay, let's do a little prayer of protection, and let's get our ducks in a row here. Okay, hold on just a second. Let me get myself back on line here. And all right, hold on just a moment. Let's have a little prayer right quick, okay? Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we ask you tonight to send us your Holy Spirit to touch our hearts and our minds, our lives and our souls, that you will open us up to hear the truth and to understand the things that we need to know in this world that surrounds us now, full of darkness and the evil forces that are at work. We ask that you put your shield of protection around everyone listening and watching this podcast tonight. We ask that you touch them with your peace, power, and protection, and with the guardianship of your holy angels. We ask this in the name of in nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. That's a good little prayer of protection, folks, just in case. We need that because, like I say, this is a dark subject, and the powers that be out there definitely do not want us to talk about this. But that's not going to stop us, okay? And we've got to remember, united as Christians, We are a power to be reckoned with. Absolutely. Okay, I want to welcome everybody else, the Cryptid Hunters that's come in. Hello, dear. Good to have you back. You know, I was really missing you, my friend Jessica. It got awful quiet around here with you gone, okay? So I definitely miss you. Absolutely. I'm glad to have you back safe and sound. And I want to say that. And also, uh, the they got Ida in here too, okay, and John Fortman. I'm gonna say hello to you too. Okay, folks, I'm about to bring on this fellow here. This is my good friend and colleague, Red Pill Preacher. How you doing tonight, sir?
How we doing, my brother? How we doing, Doc?
All right, doing good. And
Good.
it's been a hot and muggy day out there, huh?
Oh my
Absolutely.
goodness. This southern heat and humidity is killing you. Woo. You know how it is
I
in the
hear you.
southern.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna tell you what though, I'm beginning to wonder, about the weather. There's some really freaky stuff going on with that. Absolutely. And I was just thinking the other day, I'm not that old, but I remember when I was a kid, we didn't have summers too much like this. It was a little bit nicer than this. I don't know what's going on with that, but I think certain powers that are out there have been messing around with our weather for a long
Well,
time, without a doubt.
they've
Won't
been
you
weaponized.
introduce yourself, sir, and tell everybody about you?
Well, it ain't much to tell. My name's Dr. Dave Roach. I go as Red Pill Preacher. I got my PhD in philosophy. I was a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, veteran of the law enforcement community for 15 plus years. I was a prison magistrate judge for a lot of those years, narcotics for 5 of them, and on the prison SWAT team and things of that nature. I got ordained as a minister in 2008. My
Hmm.
wife and I opened up a church, and I'm a father of 7, grandfather of 2.
Well, it sounds like you've had a well-rounded life. Definitely. I've also, had a little bit of experience in law enforcement myself, and it does change your attitudes on some things. You see that darker underside of life a lot, And I was telling somebody the other day, there is an epidemic of suicide in law enforcement and first responders and all that, and they have a very, very tough job. Absolutely. And of course, I want to thank you too for your service. Absolutely. That is one of the foundations of this country. The people who have given of themselves to serve, they don't get enough recognition for that. Absolutely. But
Yes,
now,
sir.
turning to our subject tonight, the cults and all that. When did you start getting interested in that? Is that something that sort of you went down a rabbit hole on, or how did that work?
Well, well, it started for me working. My first assignment when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to work uh, in a maximum security penitentiary, and I got assigned to the psychiatric unit. And I
Hmm.
started to come in contact with people who had been, well, for the better term, they were demonized. They had been traumatized to the point to where uh, they had developed dissociative identity disorder. And
Hmm.
that's where uh, some governments, matter of fact, use that to weaponize that particular clinical definition, and they attach demonic entities to each of these sub personalities that develop from the trauma that is inflicted on them by torture and uh, things of that nature. So I began to experience that with some of the offenders, some of the inmates that were locked up, and
Yeah.
you'd notice those polar shifts in them in their behavior from moment to moment. They would have some of them 5, 6 separate personalities, and each of them were individuals. And so that got me going down the rabbit hole, and that's where I found Russ Dizdar and Tom Horn and Thomas Dunn, and started unraveling that beast called satanic ritual abuse.
Yeah. Well, as you well know, I'm sure that different personalities in someone can sometimes be sign of a demonic possession. There is, of course, there is a mental problem like that where you do have different personalities and stuff. But sometimes that can also be a sign of demonic possession because of someone who has more than one demon in them. They will talk and do different things. I know you may have seen that or heard about that. That's definitely a thing you run into in demonology. But I think a lot of times that I have seen certain people even in law enforcement that I've been in that exhibited signs of cult persuasion and perhaps even being involved superstitiously in cults where they were maybe made to be I'm not going to say sacrifices, but they were made to participate in certain things in the cults that they didn't want to do. They were really coerced and forced into it. These are not good people that run these things. You and I know that they are definitely bad actors, and a lot of it is all about control, and all that. But these people, as you and I both know well, have hooked into a demonic power. That's what it's all about. The Bible, talked about it years ago as being a familiar spirit. In
Oh
other
yes,
words, you're in league with the demon kind of a thing, and these people are definitely in that position, don't you think?
absolutely. And not only can the individual have more than one demon, but when you start getting into these cults, they actually weaponize those personalities and attach individual demons through ritual to the personalities. So you may have a man or a woman who has their core person that seems like a everyday, average, normal person, and then with particular triggers, they can bring up that sub personality that's been demonized.
Hmm.
I'm sure,
That happens
I'm sure you've
definitely.
ran into that
I,
before.
yeah, I've seen that happen. Yeah, it can go that way definitely. And here's another thing. I think a lot of connection to all of this stuff. Red pill. You and I both know this well too. Has a drug culture connection with it. It's all about drugs, and drugs help them out. Drugs, and of course, alcohol is consumed too. Of course, alcohol is nothing but a liquid drug. That's what it basically is. If you don't look at it that way. But a lot
Well,
of
it's
this
called
stuff is,
distilled
is, is
spirits for
deep
a
in the
reason.
culture of that. You know?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's not just illegal drugs. I mean, you think about
Oh yeah.
the biblical word is pharmakia. That's where we get the word pharmacy from.
Hmm.
It means sorcery in the Greek. So
Uh,
you got a lot
well,
of people out there hooked on prescription medications, which is a form of sorcery.
dark magic and sorcery and all that have always been involved in drugs. The use of drugs in that heavily, and it opens the mind, and I think it opens doorways into the spirit, and that's
Oh
why
yeah,
they utilize it so much.
it's like
Definitely.
swallowing a key. It's like swallowing a key that opens the door to the spirit.
Yeah, and that's probably one basic reason why alcohol is called spirits. By the way, it's almost like allowing that in you, and that's what it does basically. I have seen people in my own personal thing. I have seen people, nice, friendly, outgoing people. They get drinking, they get high on it. They get mean and hateful. It's another side of them that comes out, the bestial side of it, and the demonic loves that.
Oh yeah. Well, they they want to perpetrate their personalities through us, and anything that can facilitate that, they're going to run with it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And it amplifies a lot of this stuff too. It helps to amplify what they're doing, and it amplifies that demonic power. that these people want. And that, let me say this, and I said this the other night, and I think you'll agree with me on this. One or two or even three single witches, if you want to call them witches, okay, or sorcerers, whatever name, magicians, whatever name you want to call them. If two or three of them together, then they're pretty powerful. But you get a whole coven working on something. This increases the level of their power tremendously. And that's where you get shape shifting and all this other stuff going on with that
Oh yeah.
kind of stuff. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And these covens of, that's actually what in Satanism they call their groups. They call themselves a coven. Just like witches, they call themselves a coven. You know, the optimal number I have heard through the esoteric community is 13. Of course, you know that number is synonymous with witchcraft. So,
Yep.
you know, when the more these people have to consolidate their power, it's just like us going to church, brother. Where two or three are gathered in my name, there I'll be in the midst as well, right? They look
There
at this
is
the same way.
power in numbers, power and strength in numbers, you know, and that's why the evil things in this universe, in this world, especially the dark powers, Red Pill, want to divide us, because united we are stronger.
Absolutely. And that is why the church world has become, I believe, so weak, because we've split it with denominations. We've split it among doctrine instead of standing united against this madness that we see being cut loose in our world. You know good and well that if the church stood together, or people of God stood together, these witches and warlocks would have no power against us, none whatsoever.
And you know, they manipulate mankind by trying to turn us against each other, and that increases hatred. And these dark forces feed off of this hatred, this negativity of hatred. It only increases their power. They love that. It's like, I've often described it this way, Red Pill. It's like, to me, a perpetual demonic motion machine. The more it generates negativity, the more it feeds on it, the stronger it gets. That's why we have to guard so much against negativity in our lives. The more we allow in, the more it will twist us and warp us and change us for the worse and not the best. And that's why we must guard a lot against a lot. But this stuff, you know, and I have actually attended a black mass, okay, and it was not a good thing, okay. I don't recommend that to anyone, but I was just, in a scholarly way, is the way I approach it. I was not a worshiper, okay. I was just seeking knowledge on it, but it was horrific in what I saw, and I'm not going to go into that tonight, and how the stuff that went. But I didn't stay for the whole thing either. By the way, I didn't hang around for the sacrifice. Okay,
Yeah, you
I wasn't
didn't
going.
hang around
I
for the
wasn't going.
communion portion, did you?
Well, I wasn't going to participate, definitely. And if they if they had seen me not participating, then the game would have been up, and that probably would have cost my life. They would have probably killed me and done away with me, because they had these people hide their secrets very well. You know that. I mean, they will not stop at murder. That's one of the things it requires.
That's right.
Their thing, murder. Yeah, definitely. And you have I'm sure you have seen cases of ritual murders that I have.
Oh, many times, all the way down to infants.
And you know, of course, there is, and I tell this to a lot of people. People think you're crazy about this. This is a real thing. Most 99.9% of the time, the demonic will get you to kill yourself. That's how cowardly they are. They will get you to do yourself in. They'll get you to do their work for them. But once in a great while, they will actually murder someone. And true demonic murder, you know, is when you find the body with the head turned completely around, looking over the back. That is true demonic murder. That's how they kill somebody. And a lot of times in these cults, they mimic that as a way of part of their sacrifice. When they actually, and here's what they do, when they actually do the sacrifice, kill someone, they will then break the neck and turn the head around backward.
Absolutely.
That's their sort of sign to the demonic, you know. Yeah, that's. Have you ever seen that, or had a case like that, or what?
I've never seen the head turn around backwards. I have heard that. I have seen the head severed. completely took
Yeah.
off, along with the hands. See that they will, for concealment ritual, the satanic cults will sever the hands of the sacrifice victim and put them on their altar in order to cast a concealment spell to hide their activities from powers that be, from law enforcement, and it's called the Hands of Glory ritual.
And of course, they do utilize a hand sometimes for the hand of glory thing, with the candle.
Yeah,
They make a
exactly.
candle out of it and all that. I'm not going to get into that tonight, but that is a part of it, not all of it, but part of it.
Yeah,
There's some
exactly.
freaky stuff here, Red Pill. Some freaky stuff and very dark stuff. And
The freakiest
it's
part
really,
is
we really don't want to get too deep into that tonight, but I have.
well, I see the adversary is coming against Dr. Carroll, and we're going to rebuke that in Jesus' name here tonight. You get no glory here tonight.
Yeah. Hold on just a second. I'll try to get myself back in.
Dr. Carroll. As Dr. Carroll was saying,
I had myself back on the stage here, but I don't know.
Yep,
I may have to go back.
Yeah, we just can't see you, but I can hear you.
Hold on just a second. Having a little difficulty here, but let's see. I may have to go out and come back in. Okay.
That's all right. I can talk for a minute while you're gone.
I'll leave you on the stage. I'll be right back.
All right, Doc. As Dr. Carroll was saying, he was speaking of the hands of glory. I believe that's what I was mentioning earlier. These people have spells and rituals to accomplish different things. They have, each ritual is done for a specific purpose. All of them don't involve the actual human sacrifice. Some are animal. Some rituals are sexual in nature. And then when they start combining these rituals, working the magic from all these different ends, is starting when you get to see the dark power. They'll use it to manifest demons, to actually pull them out from behind the veil and manifest them in our reality. And folks, all this is real. You might think this is a horror movie, but it's one that's happening in real time, and it's all around you. These people are truly evil. And these people are at every level of government, from the federal down to your school boards. You don't know who these people are. They do these things very, very secretly and very carefully, and are very selective on who they bring in to their covens. Well, thank God for people like Dr. Carroll, like Russ Dizdar, so that fight against this wickedness.
Now, I hear you. You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you back up there, Dennis.
Okay. My picture's not back, but I'm still here. Okay. I'm working on it. But anyway, that's very true. That happens a lot. Especially, that hand of glory thing is a very dark sorcery. And it can supposedly do some things like open doors that nobody else can do, and all this other stuff. I won't get into the whole thing about it tonight, but that's part of some of that. But we're looking at a lot, what's called basically necromancy. You're dealing with dead bodies, you're dealing with the dead, and all that stuff. You can see that happen is addressed in a lot of these cults too.
You see that biblically example with Samuel when King Saul, when he goes to the witch at Endor, she brings up Samuel. That's necromancy. That's exactly what they're doing.
Yep, absolutely. And another interesting facet of all this is the vampire cults, and we've talked about those before. And really, basically, when you look at the right way, the vampire cults and the satanic cults are really one and the same in some ways, because they're doing the same stuff. They're utilizing the same things a lot. And that, as you and I both know, and we'll talk about that a little bit tonight, when you get deep into the satanic precepts of all this, you can acquire certain powers. To become certain things. You can become a werewolf. You can become a vampire. You can become a tiger-looking thing. You can be a black panther. You can assimilate. You can assimilate the forms of many things. Okay, we know that. That's how they increase their power, and it ramps up. It keeps going up the ladder to
That's right.
exactly what they want, what kind of powers that they want to do. This is bad stuff when you think about it.
It's been my experience that you'll get to a level in the occult world and these covens to where they're going to give you a choice whether you want to be a vampire or if you want to go the lycanthrope route and become a beast. And of course, the rituals are very similar to become those things, but they all require that cardiac hydraulic fluid, if you know what I mean, to keep it safe for YouTube. You know what I'm talking about. And that's always been the key from ancient cultures till now. From the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Egyptians, they all did one thing. They all needed one thing. They needed that cardiac hydraulic fluid.
Yeah. John Portman's got a question for you. Have you ever seen anyone legitimately shapeshift, like witness actual transformation of somebody? Have you ever had that happen?
I have not. I have heard of it happening, and I know that it can happen. I do know that unequivocally. There is too many historical and written accounts of that particular phenomenon happening for you just to write it off. It's just that a lot of people do not have the chutzpah or the gall or the testicular fortitude to perform the rituals necessary to achieve that power. And Dr. Carroll and I are not going to tell you what those things are, but I'll leave it to your imagination.
Oh, yeah. Thank you there, Damien. Appreciate you subscribing. Thank you so much. Welcome aboard. Yeah, I'll tell you another thing. Just like where I'm sitting tonight, and I was thinking about this while you were talking. Where I'm sitting tonight, just around my vicinity, there are 3 known covens and maybe even 2 voodoo sects. And this is a rather small town. I mean, it's not a very small town, sort of a mid-sized town, but it's not that big of a place. And that's just here. I'm saying, what do you think is going on in New Orleans or San Francisco or some of these other places? They're loaded up with these cults. It is increasing more and more as time goes on.
We're the biggest single coven in the country is sitting in Washington, D.C. It's the 535 of them, 435 U.S. congressmen and 100 U.S. senators. They're sucking the lifeblood out of us every day, figuratively and literally. A lot of those people are putting their hands to witchcraft in the occult. A lot of people empowered to it. It's not just for the, they tempt the poor and the downtrodden to join, but they really want these upper echelon people in society that have stellar reputation. So when something does happen, they are an ability to influence law enforcement, influence society, laws to keep themselves covered. I'm sure you have experienced this in your 40 years of paranormal dealings.
It makes sense when you think about it, definitely. And a lot of these so-called vampire cults are getting a lot of younger people into the cult movement. A lot of these, unfortunately, a lot of these young people that get into the goth stuff, that kind of leads directly into that, and they're kind of recruiting them into that. And then it's also getting them into the satanic cults as well. Like I said earlier, they're one and the same, really. You can't, I mean, they're different, little different precepts in them, but they're basically the same animal. Okay, that's the way you gotta look at it.
Most definitely, it comes from the same source. They're serving the same master. Whether it's a satanic cult or a vampiric cult, the source of the power is the same. It's all from the dark side. So eventually the nuts and bolts of it comes down to old Slewfoot himself running the show behind the scenes, the devil himself, and his minions, those little g gods of the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yep.
And a lot of this, and I won't mention that too broadly tonight. How the powers that be are watching, but a lot of young people that disappear. I'm not going to say all of them. I'm not going to paint it all with a big broad brush, but there are some definitely some connection to a lot of these disappearances and how they end up in some of these cults, and not only as sacrificial parts, but as slaves, you basically say, to the people who are in these cults. And these dark cults are all about, like I said earlier, control and putting slavery on people, getting people to serve them and the powers of darkness. That's what it's all about. You're taking away personal freedoms of people to live a happier and better lives. You're forcing them into these dark things, and that's going on a lot too. Red
Well,
pill, a lot more
that's
than
part of
people
the magic.
realize. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's part of the magic. See,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to jump straight to human sacrifice for it to be working a ritual. There's sex magic, which Aleister Crowley was big into sex magic. Aleister Crowley,
Yeah.
Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, all of these people, that was the founder of Scientology. They were
Well,
big into this.
that's like what we've said about the symbols before. It's a secret language.
Oh my goodness.
It's not only language from person to person, but cult to cult. Because these guys
Oh
are
yeah, for
putting up a
sure.
network here, especially with new modern age technology. They have a network of these things going on that we don't know about on the dark web. You know.
It's so easy for these people to communicate now. I mean, you can pull up the FBI website and print the list of pedophile code words right off on a PDF file. I mean, you can see what these people say for these child sex trafficking and things of that nature. You can look for it yourself. It's all around you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot is going
Absolutely.
on, and of course, a lot of this is connected, and you know a lot about this, Red Pill. A lot of this is connected to their dates, their holidays, their
Oh,
definitely. There's a lot of that going on, and I warn people, and people think you're crazy when you talk about that, but I say especially on certain nights when these things are going on, you need to be very aware of your surroundings. Okay, you need to understand that there are some bad actors at work out there, definitely more so on those kind of occasions than others. You agree with that?
oh, absolutely. I'm sure you familiarized yourself with that calendar I sent you, right?
Oh yeah.
You see the things that they do to these people on those days. I mean, it's pretty descriptive, pretty graphic. But you're not just talking about Halloween. There's Walpurgis, there's St. Agnes Day, Christmas, Easter, all these holidays that we celebrate for other reasons. These people are working nefarious ritual magic on those days. Up
And
to December.
yeah, a lot of that's keeps going on. They have they call it the wheel of the year, the wheel of time, and each of their season comes around, and they have certain holidays for that as well. And a lot of sacrifices are performed on these times. A lot of
Absolutely.
dark stuff is done. Yeah, that's bad. And that's what I've often said. People need to really watch their young people and children very closely at those times. Because I'm not saying every one of them's like that, but I think a certain percentage of this is going on. Okay, I'm not going to give you statistics on it. I don't have a lot of statistics, but I think there's a lot of percentage of these things can be traced to some of this activity. Absolutely, and I have been in places where, and I know you probably have too. You have felt the evil so real, so thick, it's almost like a fog. You know what I'm saying? You can almost feel it. And there are ritual places that they have like that, out in woods and forests, parks, and places like that. People have to
I,
be aware of your surroundings and what you're walking up on. You don't never know.
you go out in the woods. Let's just say you're a Bigfoot researcher. You and your partner go out in the woods and you run up on a coven of 13, 15 people performing a human sacrifice. You may become an unwilling participant just because of what you saw.
Yeah, uh, and like I said earlier, these people will not stop at murder to keep
No,
their secret. They won't. They're not. That doesn't bother them. They wouldn't no more think. And I know as being in law enforcement, you run into this too. We've seen people that had so less of regard for human life. It wasn't any more to take a life than to change your socks. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but that's the way these people look at it. I remember I had one case where a guy actually dismembered his girlfriend, went home, took a shower, and took a nap after
Yep.
doing something like that. Now, I mean, this is what kind of people you're dealing with here. They have
I had
no
a case.
regard for human life.
I knew a case in my career to where a mom killed her infant son, dismembered it, baked it, and fed it to her husband. And he's still in a mental institution.
Yeah,
Now, that's
uh,
evil.
freaky, freaky stuff.
Oh, yeah. So it really does happen. People look at us, Dennis, people like you and me, been doing this, fighting this fight for years, and they think we lost our marbles.
Uh-huh.
But everything we say is 100% unequivocally
Uh-huh.
true.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, and they utilize this stuff in their quest to obtain more negativity. The more negativity they can acquire, the better. The more that they do, the more fear they can create.
That's
And
right.
but I have been, and I could feel this in certain places. Like I'm not psychic. I'm not saying I'm psychic, but I mean, after a while, when you deal with a lot of this stuff, you get a sort of a sixth sense on it. You really do. You pick up on it. Uh,
Well, you have the Holy Ghost living inside of you. And so when
mhm.
you go into somewhere that is evil and you have that demonic attachments on the land or the building or the people, it's gonna pick up in your spirit and you're gonna feel it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And that's what I've often said. With being a monster hunter myself, I said you got to remember the worst monster of all is actually humans. And these
Oh,
people, they could take the cake on it.
I'm sure you've read Charles Spurgeon in your past. You got an extensive library.
Oh, uh-huh.
Charles Spurgeon said to compare a fallen man with beast and devil slanders beast and devil. That's how wicked a person can be.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, people think a lot of this stuff is made up, red pill. They say, oh, it's a bunch of, well, they don't believe it. But this stuff really goes on. I mean, it's real, recognized stuff, recognized by law enforcement, definitely. I know law enforcement has held regional classes where they try to train officers and citing some of this cult stuff, these ritual murders and ritualistic killings that are going on.
I I will tell you that Pastor Russ Dizdar was a police chaplain for Def Tech, and the Jeffrey Dahmer murders he worked on. I'm sure all your listeners will remember that. Well, and the piece of evidence that they didn't release to the public, Jeffrey Dahmer had a power cone made out of human thigh bones and skulls in his apartment when they arrested him. He was very much into Satanism. Very much.
It's amazing. It really is. But it's frightening too in a way to think that this stuff it's like an underworld going on. Like another world out there that these people are existing in and doing all this stuff.
Oh,
Um, and like I said earlier, I know without a doubt, technological wise, they have a network and a lot of it is found on the dark web. But we've talked about this before, that they are actually merging dark black magic, ancient black magic, with technology, science, and technology, making a new alchemy, you might say, out
Oh
of this
yeah.
stuff.
Well, Arthur C. Clarke, he said that advanced technology and magic are virtually indistinguishable, and that's a very true statement. I mean, you look at the phone you got. Your cell phone is a black mirror. That's a scrying mirror. If you took this cell phone back 150 years, you'd be a god to these people because of
Oh,
the
yeah.
technology itself. It's amazing. It really is. And the more we
Uh,
get to where we're doing this transhumanist push, to where we're merging our our minds with our bodies and uploading our consciousness into the cloud and stuff like that, that stuff, you don't know what is going to be unleashed with that. It's
yeah.
absolutely evil. Absolutely evil.
uh Absolutely. And the bad thing about it is, now they've got computers, they've got all this technology they can utilize for their own purposes. They're going after that stuff. They're getting more in touch with younger people. They're doing all these other things. They're recruiting. They're doing this stuff. And I know the vampire. I was talking about the vampire cults for a few minutes. The vampire cults are very big into recruiting the younger people on board with a lot of this stuff. And I kind
Yeah.
of looked at that way. It seems like the satanic cults are a little more towards the middle aged, the 20s and 30s people, whereas in the vampire cults kind of go toward the much younger kind of people, but they're both covering the same ground, you know?
Right. Well, they're trying to catch them young because those vampire cults will eventually progress
Uh-huh.
into Luciferic worship. So
Uh-huh.
it's kind of like a stepping stone. You look at those kids down in Florida that started their own little vampire cult and drove out of state, killed the parents, and drove back as a ritual murder. I mean, this has happened in our lifetime, within the last 20 years. This stuff happens on a routine basis.
Uh-huh.
They
Oh,
get
yeah.
all this inspiration from video games, from novels, from Hollywood. All these things are pushing our culture of our youth into decadence. It's not like it was when you grow up, certainly, and it's not even like it was when I grew up. I was a child in the '80s, and I can't even
Uh-huh.
believe how far we've fallen. And I know, coming up from your childhood, you look around and you're like, you don't even recognize this place.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And like here in Urso here talks about the cartels and human trafficking, sacrifice life and worship the Queen of Death.
That's
Santa
right. Steve
Marita.
Warren.
Uh, that's they believe that and it's demonic looking to me. I mean, I won't say what it really is. It looks like a representation of a demon, and that's basically probably what it is. But they believe that this thing could actually make them bulletproof, to
You
a certain
know,
extent.
stranger things have happened. I mean, you take all these
Uh,
ancient gods, these images, that's idol worship. That is just that image is just a representation of a little g god from the past, from in the pre-Adamic world. You got Shiva. I mean, that's sitting right outside of CERN, dancing, doing that dance of destruction. So this
uh,
stuff is everywhere, everywhere.
uh.
The Baphomet
Yeah, that's
statues
another.
are sitting up in all these
I've talked
cities.
about that before. That I think, I did a seminar the other night on the fallen, the rise of the fallen, and I believe without a doubt that a lot of these so-called pantheon of gods that people have worshipped over the years, the different ones, and I'm not going to get into all their names, but just like the Greek gods and some of the Roman gods, some of these other things, were actually fallen angels
They
getting people to
100%
worship them, believe that they were gods, and they are sort of what I call tenpenny gods.
Yep.
But we do know, you and I both know this well, that the demonic, they are egomaniacs.
Oh
They
my
like
goodness.
they like acknowledgement, and that's what powers them a lot of times.
Yeah, it's they feed off your worship and your fear. You
Uh-huh.
see, fear to the occult world is like faith is to us.
Uh-huh.
Fear is the juice that makes them move. You know, it's what gives them energy to manifest, because they are energy, they are spirit beings, and they feed off of that fear. And the more scared you are, the more
The
they can
more they like
transcend
it.
into this world. That's right.
Yeah.
The more they like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the cults recognize that. See, a lot of these cults, that's how they generate that power. They fear, that negativity. They want to raise the level of that, because
Right.
that makes more power. It makes them more powerful and stronger. And that's why I say these. That's why they band together in the cults, because more than just two or three people can increase that cone of power that
Of
that,
course.
that that they can hook into. And that's a lot of the times how they get things done. They do a lot of these so-called death curses. I've had death curses put on me. They do these death curses and these spells to harm people and do that. And some of them just do it for fun. Let's be blank about it. I mean,
Yeah.
they just doing it for fun because they can do it. Here's the bad thing about it, Red Pill. Whenever you hook into the dark side of things like that, the evil, dark, negative aspects of this universe, it is, I believe, without a doubt, the worst, most addictive drug possible. It addicts you so badly that all you want to do is be immersed in it and use it all the time and do things to the point where I've heard of people actually being able to do this with their power and control ants on the ground. They thought it was fun to get them to kill each other and all that stuff. What would they do to you if they want to do that? That's the kind of power they're playing with, and this power addicts them greatly. We've often called it wrapping chains of darkness around the human soul. That's what it does.
Well, I mean, in 1997, uh, Ray LeVay's daughter, that's Anton LaVey's daughter, she had a daughter. So Anton LaVey's granddaughter beat her mother almost to death with a baseball bat in a Judas ritual and threw her in the river, so she, as she claimed in court, so she could get the power of her demons.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. Oh
Yep.
yeah. I remember that. I remember that one happened. Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Urso says they use romantically charged material to lure sexually awakening adolescents and confuse them, planting seeds in the youth flock. And they do that, Urso,
Yes,
not
they
only
do.
confusing them in their own sexuality, so they don't know who or what they're, male or female, or what they are. And that's where you get a lot of this trans stuff. I'm not going to get into that tonight, but you get into a lot of that stuff. They utilize that as well. But look at the imagery, Red Pill, that
Oh,
they're using. The imagery is the main thing, and that's how they're getting a lot of these young people, especially these rock stars and pop stars. They get up on the stage doing all this devil kind of stuff. They think it looks cool. They think it's the end great thing to do. But this is what the demonic is all about. Imagery
I mean,
to
they're
fool
doing
you. I
rituals.
call it the demonic glamour. Okay, they
Oh
can
yeah.
make it look good, and they can make you see what they want you to see.
Well, that's as old as time immemorial, all the way back in the garden. That's what the serpent did to Eve. He made it
Uh-huh.
look. He made it look glamorous. He's like God was
Yep.
keeping something from him from eating the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
And that's
And
exactly what Satan told Eve. You can become a god.
yes, that's exactly what he said.
Uh-huh.
Your eyes will be open, and then you will be as God.
And
And
that
you
is
got
the number one thing. And that, Red Pill, is the number one thing of all this preaching about New Age stuff. That's the number one precept of New Age. You can be a God. You can have the power of God. You can have the power. That's what it's all about, the power.
and you know
Yeah.
what that power, what has been my experience, Dennis, and you tell me if you've experienced the same thing or you have the same theory. The reason I think they want the power, the reason I think
Uh-huh.
these vampire cults why they want the immortality is because they know there's a God and they know
And
there's
I'll
going to
tell
be a judgment. So they are
and
trying to live forever to escape judgment.
another thing we got to think about too, Red Pill, is the fact that the demonic is never going to really share its true power with you. Okay, we
Yeah,
got to
not
understand
escaping.
that. That's a trick. That's a lie. They're not just like the powers that be in this world, and I think the demonic is directly hooked into a lot of this power in the world. You know, as the Bible says, you know, spiritual
Yeah,
dark wickedness in high places. Okay, that we know that's going on. We know who the God of this world is. Okay, because he
that's
stole
right.
it from the real God. Okay, but
That's right.
let me say this: no matter what kind of deal you make with a demonic, no matter how up you go in the coven, no matter what you do, how many people you kill, they're never going to give you their power.
No,
No, no,
they'll
no.
give
It's
you
a lie.
trinkets. They'll give you the ability to float off the ground a couple inches, or they'll give you the ability to manifest some money in your life. They'll give you trinkets. But the people at the very top, they're not going to give you their power because you are giving them your energy so they can maintain their power. They're not going to
Oh
give
yeah.
you the secrets. They're not going to give you the secrets. Now they have to give you some because if you never got any benefits from it, you wouldn't do it. And
Oh yeah.
by displaying some of their power or ritual to you, that's part of the spell. They have to show their hand, so to speak, to make the magic work.
And that's what I've said so many times about this soft disclosure and stuff that they always going on about. They're not going to share. They're not going to really tell you anything. They're not going to share their secrets because if they do that, they have to turn loose of their power. They're not going to do it. That's just the
No,
way that's going to go. And you know that's you got to understand that's the kind of people you're dealing with. You know.
yeah, they're not going to give you anything substantive. They're going to give you surface level stuff to wet your whistle. That's about it until you get in it. And then when you want to advance from level to level, you got to do something more wicked. Then the next time you got to do something more wicked than that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's how it works.
But it's a trick too on the part of the darkness to get you to go from level to level to level, like you're gonna really get something out of it. You know,
You're
it's
not getting
all a bunch of
anything.
it's all a bunch of lies, basically. That's what the Bible tells us about these demons. They're deceiving spirits. That's all
Yeah,
that they do. That's their job. You know.
their father is the father of lies. I mean, their
Hmm.
boss. You know, the Bible says that he was a liar from the beginning, and the truth ain't in him.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you know, it takes a lot of people don't learn. Here's the bad thing about it. Okay, it's this: there's not enough knowledge on this out there. There's not enough people talking about this. You know, to really drag this out into the shadows into the light. You know, and and of course I know it's a movie, but you know, Constantine, he's always getting the demons. He says, "Into the light, I command you." When you pull these things into the light, they don't like that. They want to
No.
operate in shadows of darkness. And we need to, a lot more shows need to get out there and do something about this. People need to start talking about some of this stuff. And that, if you expose a lot of this stuff, that takes a measure of power away from them. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
um, I think a preacher one time said, the power of the devil is that nobody will believe in him. You know, I've actually had supposed men of God tell me, oh, I don't believe in a personal devil. I don't believe that, you know, there's a certain person that's the devil. I think it's a bunch of bull, okay?
Yeah.
Because that is contrary to everything the Bible teaches, okay?
Well, you know, that's what they're teaching in modern day seminary, Dennis. They're teaching people out of their faith. You got 60% of people graduating seminary that don't even believe in angels. They don't even believe that the devil is a real person. It's an allegory. That's
Yep.
madness. That's madness. If you can take an honest, straight-faced look at the world around you and tell me there's no devil, I call you a fool. Because anybody with eyes to see can see that there is a real devil out there because the shape the world is in.
And another thing is, you talk to somebody that belongs to the Satanic Church, okay? They will tell you this lie, okay? Oh, there's not a real Satan. We don't believe there's a real Satan. We're just celebrating the freedom that he symbolizes. And all this bunch
Yeah.
of junk, which is a whole crock full, okay? But they actually getting people to believe this stuff, see? And it's all when you take a knife and you cut through the web of lies and all this stuff, you're gonna find out exactly what's waiting for you at the end. Is that guy named Satan? Definitely, he's in there, and
Well,
he's
for
running the
somebody,
whole shebang on this.
for an organization that don't really believe that there's an actual Satan, their founder cut his own daughter's head off in a ritual to something that he didn't believe was there. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. And such as Sharon Lane says, many preachers don't believe the Bible. Unfortunately, a lot of these so-called divinity schools and stuff teach basically symbolism, 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 symbolism. They'll tell you the whole book of Revelation is just a bunch of symbols. Um, they're 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 denying the true facts of what
Yeah,
things are, and they're overthinking stuff. And we're getting bad about that, overthinking things. When God said in the Bible, I have chosen the simple things to confound
to
the wise.
confound the wise. That's
Hmm.
right. The Bible is written so simply. Yeah, I believe it's written to where it speaks to people where they are in their life. The Bible speaks to a farmer. The Bible
Hmm.
speaks to a mathematician. The Bible speaks to a musician. The Bible speaks to different people different ways, but it's always the same message. It's the most beautiful book in the world. I mean, it's the only book in the world that says has living words on the page.
And the spirit of the world today, the way things are going, the way the church and Christianity itself is being attacked. And I'm not talking about a certain denomination. I'm talking about the whole thing of Christianity, which is really based on a relationship and not man-made precepts. Okay,
That's right.
uh, but the whole thing of Christianity is being attacked constantly, being pushed down, hated. It is hated in certain quarters. They're trying to actually. Here's what really bugs me. Okay, if you don't want to believe in something, that's your choice. But why do you want to go tear somebody else's belief down? That's not good.
Ah, ah,
That's not right. But you see that happening day after day after day, and it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. But
yeah,
that's already been predicted too. Okay, that's going to happen.
that's right.
But but a lot of these powers, like with these cults and everything, they're using that in a PL, in a what I call PR, public relations kind of thing going on to push down Christianity and push their way. That's the way it's going. Especially this New Age stuff that people are teaching, all this bunch of junk that goes with that. Like I said, you can be a guy. I had a woman tell me one time. She said, "Oh, I talked to God, and He said I can be God too. So therefore, I don't have to answer to anybody but
Ah,
myself."
yeah, well,
Well, I
that
mean, you
sounds
get
very
this kind
familiar.
of weird stuff. That is a true New Age philosophy thing going on,
Well, that sounds very
and
familiar.
yeah,
The
people are buying it.
Aleister Crowley's book, the Book of the Law, right? He said, "Do what thou wilt." That's
Yeah.
Aleister Crowley. That's Crowleyism right there. That's the Thule
Hmm.
Society. That's the Order of the Golden Dawn manifested in the modern day.
And that's the motto of witchcraft and the motto of the Satanic Church and all these other cults. Do so whatever you will.
Yep, and
Do
as
whatever you
above,
want
so
to.
below. Yep,
Hmm.
do whatever you want. There ain't no rules down here. Ain't that what they say?
And something missing out of that. So do whatever you want to, as long as you don't hurt nobody else. You don't hear that part of it.
No,
Just
you
do
don't.
whatever you want to. That's it. That's the period on that. Russell says
Yeah,
my son-in-law, a new Christian, was told that he didn't pay his tithes, he would go to hell. He's so discouraged right now as a new Christian. Well, that's not Christianity. That is religious stuff. And there's a big line. There's a big difference. We have to understand that religion is a man-made thing. Christianity is a true Christianity. Is a relationship with your Creator,
that's right.
one-on-one.
It's a
Okay.
personal relationship with
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. That's
Yep.
what true Christianity is. All this mega church crap, and that's what it is. It ain't nothing but something. The Bible makes it clear. It said they making merchandise of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're doing. They're building
And
their own kingdom with their own name on it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And LaVey says, curse Jane Mansell. She is unfortunately a good example of how this darkness will destroy you.
Yes,
Okay. And you and I both have seen people that we know about this that put their 6 foot under right now tonight by these kind of forces. This is nothing you play with. This is dangerous stuff, and you have to recognize it as that. It's just the same as playing with a grizzly bear. Sooner or later, it's going to eat you. Okay,
that's right.
that's just being a
That's
grizzly
right.
bear, and that's the way these things are.
You
But
can't
when
tame them
when the
things.
darkness gets you to a certain point, my friend, when it's got you right where it wants you, then what it's going to do? It's going to kill you. It's going to
Yeah,
destroy you.
it'll consume you. It'll consume you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what these demons want. They want you to destroy yourself. Because what they really want is to destroy God, but they can't get to him. So what they have to do is they have to destroy the thing that he loves, which is us. We're the only thing that they can get to. They can't get to him, so they get to what he loves, which is us.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of these so-called preachers out there are really not men of God, but men of mammon, money. That's all it's about. That's how they're
That's
making
it.
their money. That's what their God is, money.
It's a business. It is a business. That's what it is. All these mega churches, 50, 60,000 members. How can a pastor have an intimate relationship with his congregation when he don't even know your face? So it ain't like
I
when we
always
go
like
in.
that. I always like that preacher's sermon in Moby Dick. You remember that preacher Maple, I think his name was. And he says one very important line in his sermon. His beautiful sermon in that book. If you ever want to read it, very beautiful sermon. And in that sermon, he says, "We will pluck the truth out, even if it's from under the robes of judges and senators.
Oh
No
yeah,
matter who hides the truth is your enemy. Whoever is against the truth is your enemy. There's no middle ground on that. That's just the way that works."
the truth. If you just let it loose in the earth, it will defend itself. The truth is like a lion. It will rip through this world unequivocally if you just let it loose. But they're trying to conceal the truth on many
Uh-huh.
subjects. This is just one subject. These people and these powers that be, they're trying to keep us all deaf, dumb, and blind. But I'm here to tell you we can wake up. And that's my mission in life, is to wake up as many people as I can before I close my eyes in death and open them up in glory. I want to wake up enough people to where we can make a difference in this world, like yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Fighting a good fight for how
Well,
many years, Dennis? 40? 50 years? How long you been fighting this fight?
and that you've got to have, that's like we've always said, especially in paranormal investigation, you got to have empirical evidence.
Yes.
Evidence that stands up to everything. And a lot of people don't understand. You got to have something that's a measure for other things. And the Word of God is what you got to hold it up to and see if it measures up to that and what it says. That's the empirical truth. The Word is the Word. In the
Yes, sir.
beginning was the Word. The Word was God. The Word
That's right.
was God. I mean,
John
that is
1:1.
God. Okay.
Yep.
And I think you'll agree with me when I say the one thing that makes God completely holy and righteous is His perfection. He is
Oh,
absolutely perfect in everything. His word is perfect. I'm not going to say the way some men interpret it is wrong. That's just the way that goes. But His word is His perfection. That's what one day we will be that way. We're not perfect now. We live in an imperfect world that's been a world, unfortunately, that's been infected with sin and darkness and all this evil that was brought here by one guy and a bunch of angels that fell with him. They fell
Yeah,
here. They've been here with us since the beginning. They will be here with us to the end. Well, they're not our problem. We got to remember this, Red Pill. They're not our problem. They're God's problem, and God's going to take care of it, not us.
that's right. You know, we don't have the Christian life ain't hard. Our heads are hard.
Hmm.
That,
But
that's what
meanwhile, we got to watch out for our own souls, though. That's the main
that's
thing.
right. Yep, we got to work it out in fear and trembling, our own soul salvation.
Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely, my brother.
Damien says, yes, very true. The divine creator and family is perfect beyond perfection. That's the only thing that is perfect in this universe. You know, that's what even Jesus was trying to get across when he said, there's no one good, no one but the Father.
That's
You know,
right.
that's what he was trying to get across.
So there
And
are none
even
good,
though,
none evil.
and you know, I find it very humbling to think that even though Jesus was human too, and he was tempted, it says, in every way that we've been tempted, he never sinned. He never sinned, but yet he still humbly felt God was better than he was.
And he was God manifested in the flesh. Think about that.
Yeah, that's how humble. And that's why God loves a humble heart. And that's what you got to look at these cults and these covens, these cults, and all this other stuff. A lot of stuff coming out of Hollywood, a lot of stuff coming out of the pop world and the rock world, and all this sports world, all this other stuff is not godly. It doesn't have anything to do with God. It has everything to do with pleasure, money, and power. That's what it's all about.
That's right.
Some of these basketball stars, I saw today one signed up $100 million. I mean, $10 million or something like that. I don't know. I mean, it's astronomical amount of money just to bounce a basketball around. Okay. I mean, where's all this coming to? They've sold their souls, my friend.
Yes.
No matter what, you can look at it that way. They've sold their souls for this stuff, and they want you. Here's the bad thing about it. And I've often said this about the demonic. It's like a spiritual bomb going off. It don't care how many people it takes with it when it goes off. It doesn't
Nope.
care. I mean, like a terrorist bomb. It doesn't care how many people it kills. And you have I seen the aftermath of things like that. We've been taught, we've seen the pictures, we've seen the video of what they don't show on the news. Okay, we see
Yep.
what the terrorist attacks look like.
It's
That's the
indiscriminate.
way and that's the way this evil is working. It will take everybody with it, and that's why they're putting this imagery forth now. They're dealing all this, and it's a very interesting thing. I've always talked about in the book of Revelation. It keeps talking about the beast and the image of the beast. It's all
That's
about
right.
imagery here, okay? And we got to understand that, and we got to know where they're coming from and what pills they're pushing. You know what I'm saying? We got to see what they're putting on us, and we've got to understand what we're dealing with and what we're facing. If we don't, it's going to get us. We're going to
We,
fall victim to it too. You know.
we need to remember that we be in the image of God like He made us. That word image in the Hebrew means reflection and means mirror. We're supposed to mirror God. We're supposed to reflect His glory in the earth. We're supposed to be good and decent people. If we all woke up tomorrow and we all perform the tenets of a good Christian life, the whole world would be in a better place, wouldn't it?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's so
Sure
true. Yeah.
would, brother.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we've done gone well over an hour here. I want to appreciate you coming on here with me tonight. We've had some interesting discussions
Yes, sir.
before, and I will definitely have you back on here again. We'll
Well,
talk. I
I'd
want
be
to
happy to.
next time we get you back on here, we're gonna get more into the holidays, the satanic holidays and stuff. That's some interesting things there.
Sure.
People don't realize how much a lot of that goes on, and a lot of this paganistic stuff that is behind a lot of this stuff. So those holidays will definitely be another good subject we'll have to get into one night. And speaking of imagery, we'll definitely get into AI sometime too. That's just an interesting thing.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
right now I'm writing a book called The
The
God
God
Game.
game.
Yeah,
Hmm.
The God Game. And to me, and it gets the more I get into this, the more it's eye opening to me. Okay, the more I understand, the more I look at it, the more it talks to me. You know what I'm saying? And there are certain forces at work in this world tonight, and then we could say, I think you'll agree with me, that will stop at nothing to accomplish what they want. But if you were to gain all the power and the money in the world, you want to live long enough to enjoy it. You want immortality. Then you will be like what they want to be, a god. Okay?
That's right.
We got to
That's
remember
right.
the forces of darkness were thrown out of heaven for one reason only. They wanted to take the throne of God. They wanted
Sure.
to be God. They'll never
That's
get
right.
that. That's not going to ever happen for them, okay? But
No,
that's what they still want. They're still working towards that goal, and we got to understand that's their plan. Their plan is not only to take the throne of God, but to take us with it. That's
absolutely.
basically what. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
And we'll have to talk about that one night because that's interesting stuff. But the more I
Well,
get into this book, the wilder I get. I mean, look, they're thinking about using robotics in this. They're thinking about cloning. They're thinking about all this stuff. And
they're not
everything
just
that they're
thinking about it.
doing,
They're
Red
doing it.
Pill.
Yeah, they're doing
Yeah,
it.
and
They're not even thinking about it.
everything they're doing, they're perverting everything God's ever done. And that's what one thing we got to remember tonight. When you talk about these cults and about all this imagery that they're putting forth, everything is reversed. They are perverting the creation of their creator. That's what they're doing. No matter how which way you look about it, especially the demonic is doing that. They're wanting to pervert the creation of the creator. That's why they hate God so much. They want to be there, they
Absolutely.
want to be gods themselves. You understand?
Absolutely.
That's what the
Man.
whole goal is. Yeah. Hmm.
They want to be gods themselves, but they can't pull it off. They're going to
Oh
try,
yeah.
but they won't
Oh yeah.
succeed. But
And
yes,
it's
I'll
still
come
the
back
same
in.
old story. It's still the same old
Oh,
story. You eat this fruit, and you can be a god too. You know.
that's right. But I'll come back anytime you want, Dennis. Just let me know, and I'll be there for you, my brother.
All right. Okay. Yeah. We'll definitely
We got
have some more in the future there. Absolutely. I
we
really appreciate you coming on here tonight.
no
Sorry, I had a
problem.
little
We got to have each
technical
other's back.
difficulty here. I got to figure out where my picture went. But anyway,
Well, that's all
I'm
right. We got
already
to have
seeing
each other's
myself, so I've already seen myself, so I know what I look like. Okay. But anyway,
back.
I appreciate you coming on. I let you get in the house, get under the air conditioning there for a while, and
No problem,
I
brother.
appreciate
No,
you coming on, and we'll get together again, my friend. Take care. Okay.
yep. May God keep you and bless you, brother.
All right. Okay, everyone. That was Red Pill Preacher. He's a good guy. That's an interesting conversations with him. Definitely. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I'm sorry about my picture. I don't know where it went. I don't know. I had to figure out exactly what happened to it. But anyway, yeah, you can look at that. That probably looks better than I do anyway. But anyway, I want to thank you all being here tonight, and we'll definitely have him back very soon. And I want to appreciate you all. Also, want to appreciate all of the financial support you've given us and the memberships. Maybe you can find that membership button if you want to join. It says join, I think. So it's pretty plain. But if you want to join, you're welcome to do it. Become an official shadow hunter. And that's always good. Oh, yeah, because we got a lot of shadows to deal with, folks. Absolutely. And they are definitely in that. Yes, what's the definition of evil? Taking something that's evil and perverting it just a little bit. Oh, yeah, that's the way evil works, my friend. Uh, That's the way evil works. It takes the innocent and good things of our universe and twists them and turns them around backwards for the bad way and not the good way. Evil calls good evil, and evil it calls good. That's the way it operates, and that's the way we gotta remember it too. Yep, hit the main join button on the main screen of the channel. Okay. Yep. Thank you for reminding me of that, Brother Gone. I'll put you up there for a minute. Let everybody read that. And I really appreciate you all being here tonight. And we'll be looking forward to this Friday night at 9 o'clock p.m. on Paranormal Point of View. We're going to continue Vampire Week here on Hunting the Shadows. We're going to be talking about vampire encounters and uncovering the undead. I've got some really freaky stories to tell you about and some very interesting stuff associated with all that. Absolutely. So until we get together again, then, my friends, remember, nos aventus cortus. That means we adventure forth. So adventure forth into the week coming up. I hope it's going to be fantastic. What's left of it, and a great weekend. Have a great 4th of July out there. Stay safe and watch out for the fireworks. Okay, and be very careful out there and keep your head on swivel. Okay, be aware of what's going on. Absolutely. And thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Hunting the Shadows. And until we meet again, my friends, remember, via con Dios.